Well, welcome to another edition of Spireites Extra Time. We're going to talk about the Walsall game, obviously, and any other bits and bobs, and look forward to the MK Dons game coming up on Saturday. But it's Paul Fisher and Liam Norcliffe with you for this half an hour edition. As yes, we experienced the Walsall game, a fourth time that Chesterfield have played at Walsall this year alone, and things perhaps, Liam, didn't get any better than they have over the course of the three previous games that they've played either, did they?
Should we just agree never to go to Walsall ever again?
I think so. I
Mate,
think
if
so.
if they end up playing each other in the playoffs, let's just not go. Let's just watch it from home and maybe things will change. But yeah, it was. I mean, we were talking about it in the car on the way down. I've sort of said I was a bit worried that it might be the same again, and unfortunately, the game panned out exactly how you thought it might, with Chesterfield having all of the possession, but they weren't able to break down a stubborn Walsall uh, side. Where they fair play to them actually, because I've written this in one of my pieces in that we've probably been guilty of a bit of sort of football snobbery in the past, where you sort of look down on teams like Walsall for the way that they play in the modern day, where we're all one when we all talk about sort of possession and things like that. They're happy to not have the ball, but they're well organised, strong from set pieces, and they'd had a summer of change. They I didn't realise actually how many players they'd actually
Yeah.
swapped. Really, none of the players who were in the starting lineup on Saturday played in that semi-final second leg. So I didn't realise it was that much of an overhaul, really. So I think it's quite impressive from a Walsall point of view how quickly they gelled, because you don't normally see that so early on in the season. For them to carry out that exact same style that they had last season in terms of being really solid, got the best defensive record in the league. All right, they're not scoring that many, but to have already implemented their style so early on, as much as we're coming at this from a Chesterfield point of view. You have to take your hat off to them, really, because I think that's really encouraging from them. And it looks like they've got their recruitment spot on again. They're big and powerful, young, energetic, and with a bit of sprinkling of experience in there as well. But yeah, from a Chesterfield point of view, no shots on target despite having 73% possession. They just didn't lay a glove on them again, did they? Until added time, when they had those two headers from Dobra and Shea Dunkley, which came from crosses. And I think that's something that we've all sort of been calling for a little bit more. And we did sort of see that. And then maybe it's tailed off a bit again. But, you put the ball in the box, create panic, maybe a mistake, force a save, and just get them out of their shape a little bit, and get men in the box. And, something can happen, can't it?
That's it. That's put it into the mixer, isn't it? As they say at the end, and then it's pot luck, isn't it? With that, I should say that we're not actually looking down on Walsall FC in terms of snobbery. We're looking.
No.
People have a perception that long ball football is a case of football snobbery against football played on the grass, as Brian Clough once sort of mentioned, didn't he, with that? So it's a case of the beautiful game against the game that gets you results, isn't it? And
Mm.
and that's what Walsall do. They play to their advantages in the spaces. It works for them. Let's just add to that.
It's
It works for them.
effective, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
effective.
Okay, the second half of last season didn't quite. They were shocked by the loss of Nathan Lowe, weren't they? Going back, and it really affected them a lot. Nobody can deny that. I don't think the evidence is there, apart from when they played Chesterfield, when it seemed to be. It didn't seem to occur to them at all that losing Nathan Lowe was a problem, did it? But. Um, you're exactly right. I think that that there is this sort of anti football thing that people have in that, and Chesterfield fans should remind that like, look, there's far more ways to skin a cat, and
Mm.
I hate using that analogy, but you've sometimes got to play to your percentages with that, and it's all about winning. It's all about winning the game, isn't it? So, and if you can't win the game, you get a draw and you shake hands and you move on. And I think that's what Paul Cook was trying to allude to, wasn't he, in the start of
Mm.
your cut short interview, was that, there was nothing in the game, he was saying. There was nothing in the game, and it was, you take a point, and that's exactly what you do. But, that we looked at the sort of situation about the goal, didn't we, as well? We've discussed that. In the car, didn't we? We just said that phase one, there's a foul on Dobra, possibly, but it's not given. Perhaps because Dobra had been carded for the simulation before, so the referee thought, well, I'm not having that again. So, so he let that one go. Phase two is the ball coming from. I think it goes up to McFadden, doesn't it? I think, and he blasts the ball against the shins of Daniel Carnu again. That's a situation that could have cleared the goal. The third phase is Che Dunkley unsure of where to go and drive back. He really doesn't know where his sort of positional sense is on that occasion, does he? He doesn't know where to go across because he don't think Carnu's going to shoot. Or does he hold back because he thinks a cross is going to come in? He doesn't quite know where to go. So I tell you what, credit to Carnu then for driving that ball, getting it under control, having the time, and then releasing a shot across Hemming to get the goal in his first goal of the season. That was the difference between the two sides. Just that one moment, that one
Mm.
finish between the two sides. I felt Chesterfield after the first 5 minutes, they defended really well to try and stop Walsall coming in. There's Aidan Flint had a clear header in the opening stages of that game, which he should have hit the target at least with, and put Walsall ahead with that respect. And Chesterfield had to, defend a bombardment of 5 minutes, didn't they? Coming in from both crosses from both sides, especially Evan Weir's delivery. And they coped with that in the end and got through it and then dictated play. Walsall
Mm.
just sat back, really. I thought there was some silly decisions from the referee. I thought he got involved too much, really. Some of the yellows that he dished out weren't yellows. On reflection, seeing the game again, I felt Charlie Lakin's first yellow was very unlucky to get that. I thought it was just a challenge he went in with Vontae Daly-Campbell. And there was also a challenge on Lewis Gordon, which I felt was just a 50-50 as well. I think one of the players got a yellow card from that. So, but in the second half, they sat back, didn't they? Chesterfield just passed the ball about. And as Danny Webb alluded to, Liam, in his interview, Chesterfield were passing the ball about, their wrong side of the centre circle. They were just passing it about nicely in that Asians, trying to sort of get Walsall left to right and try to tire them out. Well, it's very difficult to tire out League Two players these days, as it was with National League. The tempo, I felt, wasn't fast enough to get it to the wings and get the crosses in. I just
Yeah,
felt it wasn't.
100%. Yeah, going back, Walsall, they came out and threw the kitchen sink at Chesterfield, didn't they, with the early corners and the long throws, and you thought, here we go. Chesterfield had won the toss. They'd opted to switch Walsall around, trying something a little bit different so that they weren't kicking towards that big stand in the second half with all their fans behind them.
Mm,
But I actually thought Chesterfield, apart from, I think, like you said, the first corner, I thought they defended theirs really well. And the
mm,
Walsall lost their momentum. And Chesterfield, they conceded when they grew into that half.
yeah.
And they conceded at a time where there just wasn't any danger. You thought it was just petering out for a 0-0 at half
Well, I
time.
I said on commentary, Liam, on commentary that it was against the run of play because Chesterfield had a surge going forward. There was crosses coming into the box. There were players getting into pockets, and it was looking more likely that Chesterfield were going to score the opening goal rather than Walsall.
Yeah, Ronan Darcy, I think he got into the box a couple of times
Yeah.
in that sort of left-hand pocket, but there was no sort of end product. Lewis Gordon flashed across to the near post, which Lee Bonnis nearly got on the end of. Going back to the goal though, probably. Well, obviously we don't get replays in the press box. We don't have that benefit for people who are maybe watching back at home. But yeah, it was sort of a counter-attack goal again, wasn't it? I think like I said, maybe there's a foul on Dobra. The ball goes down the channel. I think Gordon loses out in a duel. McFadden loses out in a duel, but it's not probably as bad of an error as what we thought at the time.
Mm.
When you're watching it in real time, he's probably he just whacks it against his shins, doesn't he? And you could sort of say, maybe if he's stronger, he just wins the ball, or maybe if he's stronger, he could end up taking out the man and getting a yellow or even a red. And I think he just ricochets off Carnu. He gets a bit of luck, and then could Shea Dunkley get across a little bit quicker? He probably doesn't know. Maybe communication was the failing on that part. That Daley Campbell was behind him, and he had the runner in the box, so he had that side of things covered. So maybe Shea Dunkley could have got across to Carnu to block him off. But it was a good finish, on loan at Charlton, on loan from Charlton, Carnu, and he scored some goals for Southend. I think it was last season.
Yeah.
So it was a good finish, to be fair. But yeah, probably did come against the runner play a little bit when Chesterfield looked like they just weathered the storm, grew into the game a little bit. But if you think about the nature of the goal itself, I was thinking about this the other day, is that the goal against Harrogate, where it's a throw-in, they lose possession, and it's just one cutting ball straight through the middle, and they've got a one-on-one. And then the goal against Mansfield, where at the first goal, where it's just a ball into the striker's feet, a little sort of like 1-2, wasn't it, on the edge of the box, and they were in. And I think one of the Crawley goals was similar as well, if I remember rightly. Just sort of that when Chesterfield are attacking, there's just this big open space, because obviously Chesterfield do commit men forward. There's just this big open space in the middle of the park that when they do lose possession is there to be exploited, and teams are just playing one quick forward direct pass and they're in. So it's just maybe whether, first of all, if you don't give the ball away, I suppose it never occurs. But it's about maybe blocking those spaces just so they're not so wide open. In a very simple way, I'm not a manager or a coach, but they're just sort of some goals I thought they're quite similar.
The common denominator with those is they all came from Chesterfield's left. If you look at them, the initial start, a couple of them are from throw-ins. I think the Harrogate one was from a throw-in, I think, wasn't it, initially? I think, and the Mansfield one was definitely from a throw-in, wasn't it, going forward into that, and then just switch play across. The Harrogate goal went across to the sort of left-hand side, whereas this one against Walsall was from more the right-hand side, and the other three are from the right-hand side. So, so there's something perhaps to be worked upon there. We're not saying that we've sort of, if we put an 11 out there, we'd beat Chesterfield. But it's
no, we're just sort of we're just throwing it out there for people. Like I say, if they keep possession, then obviously those situations don't arise. But I think it's been mentioned, and I think it was probably Danny Webb in your interview saying something along those lines, that the goals that they've conceded are a little bit similar in recent weeks. And obviously teams will be looking at that themselves. Opposition, MK Dons will be looking at that, won't they, for Saturday? But it was just, what's that? Five attempts at trying to beat Walsall now, and just the 1 point. I would have liked to have seen Chesterfield not sort of completely rip up their game plan or their script, but maybe try something. People have talked about the plan B, because I really liked, although they didn't create much until the added time, the fact that they did freshen up the fullbacks with Tanton and Lewis, and they were more attacking. They got crosses in the box, and their best two chances of the game came from crosses in added time. The fact that they had Lee Bonis and Will Grigg on the pitch at the same time, and then Will Dixon came on and partnered Will Grigg. So, the crosses in the box and the two strikers, I personally would just like to see that a little bit more.
I agree. The will they, won't they in the end didn't quite work, did it? So it was a a situation. Yeah, you're right. They sort of played a box, didn't they, when they went 4-4-2 really, by pushing the fullbacks really on. They were the Lewis and Tanton were right up there, weren't they? It was almost a sort of 4-2-4 that they played, didn't they? And then but they were on long enough really to try and get the crosses that were more dangerous came in stoppage time. You wondered whether the what happened the 10 minutes before that. Why didn't they get to but crosses into the box earlier than that? So, But it wasn't to be. It was an opportunity there, and yeah, there is criticism because Chesterfield didn't lay a glove in terms of uh, Miles Robertson's gloves weren't even involved in the game, were they really? In terms of just booting the ball, that's all he had to do. He didn't have to do really pretty much. I mean, after the game as well, Walsall again, they were big win for them, wasn't it? It was a big celebration from all the fans that they were there, and the 6,000 crowd or so. No official figure on how many Chesterfield fans were there, but roughly around 1,500. You probably look at that. And Chesterfield fans had gone by the time Aidan Flint did this, but he was going down the tunnel. He was one of the last to leave. He looked at the Chesterfield supporters, who were all had their backs to them, and he started sort of waving goodbye to them. But nobody was sort of giving any gesticulation back because they'd all gone practically. So Flint had
He'd come
got
in for some.
pelters.
He'd come in for some stick, hadn't
He
he,
had,
throughout
yeah,
the game, and he couldn't really say anything during the game, but he had his moment, didn't he?
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you think about this, Paul. I mean, I've heard it at home games at times. You know, when Chester would have gone 2-0 down at home, to say, thinking about Hartlepool at home in the National League,
yeah.
and Solihull, and those sorts of games where the fans become a little bit agitated. I can't really remember hearing it too much away from home. But on Saturday, I think this why it stuck with me a little bit as we were driving home and just thinking about it over the weekend, is that there was a little bit of unrest from that away end. You know, there was chance on more than one occasion of attack, attack, attack. There were boos at the end, and a lot of people, despite it being 1-0, had headed for the exits early, and there were a bit of finger pointing at the end, as well as the players went over to clap. Now, it's probably just a one-off frustration at losing to Walsall again and not having a shot on target despite having all this possession. I don't think it's anything deeper than that at the minute, is it? It's probably is just that one-off frustration. Do you think?
Yeah, I think we put it in isolation, can't we? Because Chesterfield fans, by and large, they support the team whatever they want. Paul Cook wants them to go off the field and leaving everything out there. He's an everything or nothing manager, isn't he? So he puts everything on the sidelines into the team. He wants them to back up his passion and rain shots on the side. And if you come up losing out by 1-0, but you've given everything and more to try and do that, then that's what he wants. And by and large, by that, what fans mean, what they want is shots on target, don't they? They want to see the keeper making saves. They want to see the ball hitting the crossbar. They want to see Chesterfield bombarding Walsall. And if you come out with a 1-0 loss, that's what you got. But what they did get was lots of possession, and not really laying a glove at all on Walsall. And the fact that they were kicking away from into the big stand in the second half didn't really help matters, did it? Because there was a bit of a malaise. You couldn't urge them on, for that goal, really that didn't come. So yeah, there was some sort of annoyance, I think it was, more than anything
Yeah,
else. I wouldn't
yeah,
I wouldn't say it was particularly vicious or anything like that. And Chesterfield
no,
fans, by and large, are not like that. You see some stuff on social media. By God, it could be a lot worse. You know what I mean? So, you
yeah.
know,
Social
but
media is not always
it's not the
the
greatest
best
barometer.
measurement.
Yeah,
No, yeah,
yeah. But you see some horrible things from other clubs as well. So other club supporters, let's say. But by and large, I think it's just frustration, isn't it?
yeah,
At the end, you've lost a game. Everybody's frustrated. The team's frustrated. The supporters, the coaching staff, they're all frustrated, and none more so than in your interview as well. You could see a frustrated, pent up, angry Paul Cook, who just he'd done his interview for the club media, hadn't he? And then it was your interview that the club were filming, I should say, and you got a couple of minutes out of him before he stormed off. So in
mm.
angst to a question, he doesn't hide. He's no bluffer, is he, Paul Cook? He doesn't hide it very well, does he?
He wears his heart on his sleeve, doesn't he? You know,
Yeah,
he is a winner. You know, he doesn't like losing, which is obviously a good trait to have as a football manager. But yeah, there were just we didn't really get going, and then the interview was cut short. I think he'd had enough. But yeah, I assume that was more down to just frustration of losing the game more than anything else.
Yeah,
But yeah, and it was another. Thankfully, it's not too bad of a journey, is it? An hour and a half on the way home. At least it's
yeah, it
not
could
three
be
or four
worse.
hours,
Yeah,
back from Bromley or whatever
yeah,
after another defeat. But hopefully we can get one over Walsall at some point this season.
yeah, it could be worse. I mean, yeah, it's not too bad of a journey, is it? But thankfully, I think that's Walsall done this year, isn't it? I think the next time we play them is 2026. I think so. So we'll see about that. Nathan Flint may be fit enough to play at the and see what reaction he gets in front of 10,000 Chesterfield supporters if they're right up there at the back end of the season. So yeah, we move on from Walsall. We had the news, didn't we, about Dibley Diaz's knee operation, didn't we, prior to the game? And we spoke about this in the car as well, that the Premier League players that are coming and playing under 21 football don't seem to be as robust as the players coming up through the ranks, let's say, at lower level. So that's something to be worried about, isn't it? Really, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think I said it on this pod maybe right back at the beginning, or I definitely said it in one of my pieces that I thought that Chesterfield were actually a little bit short in central midfield in terms of maybe numbers and also quality. I got shot down a little bit because people were probably more making the point of they needed a centre half, which is also a valid point. But I just sort of looked at that central midfield and thought, Luke Butterfield's just a young kid who's just come in after impressing on trial. You've got Matt Dibley Diaz, who'd had injury problems on loan at Northampton last season, only making 3 appearances. John Fleck, another year, his minutes would have to be managed. And then Tom Naylor was, at the time of speaking, was a backup right-sided centre back at right back at the beginning of the
Yeah.
season, and that just left Ryan Stirk. And I just looked at that and thought, I think they could do with maybe one more in there. And obviously, people said that centre back was a priority, and that's fair enough. And obviously, we've got a situation now where Butterfield's out injured, although he might. It was a broken foot, wasn't it? Broken metatarsal. That was about a month ago.
Yeah.
So, whether he can come straight in and adapt to men's football straight away, that's a question. Dibley Diaz is now out for a minimum of 2 to 3 months. He's got to have surgery on his knee operation. It just leaves Stirk, Fleck, and Naylor. Naylor's one booking away from a suspension. So all of a sudden, there's not too many options in there unless you think about. We've seen Liam Mandeville playing there at Swindon away last season. But all of a sudden, yeah, they're short of options, aren't they?
They are. Mandeville could be a good option for Saturday. And I thought, well, he came. It was an option for him to come on Saturday as well and slot into midfield. But then if you take Mandeville and move Naylor back, you kind of lose Naylor's battle in midfield, don't you, with his height? So, um, but Mandeville certainly is an option. And you know what Liam Mandeville would give you anyway? He'd give you legs and give you energy. And going forward, it might be an area where it suits him, where he's got more time on the ball, to work with. So, yeah, that's certainly an option to do that. But you're right. There is an area of concern there, isn't there? Because one injury to Ryan Stirk, and you're right in it, then, aren't you? So, and I don't see anybody yet coming up from the academy, all the academy names that are being thrown coming forward, like Alex Whitney and Gunnar Elliott, for example. There's two. There's another Marcus McKernan. He's a winger. So, there's no central midfielders. So, any academy player that wants to put his name forward to try and say to Paul Cook, "Hang on, here I am. You don't need to look anywhere else. I'm here. Go on, get your name going forward." So you might get a game. So yeah, it is an area of concern. But going forward, I think against MK Dons, those Well, it's going to be. They may get Dylan Duffy back. You never know how serious his injury was. They've had a full week on the training field going into the game. James Berry. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how close he is. He seems to be
Hmm.
persona non grata at the minute now. They don't seem to be mentioning him.
Yeah, I
So
mean, before the game against Crawley, someone saw him with an ice pack on his knee. So whether he's had a little knock to his knee now, maybe he's recovered from his hamstring. And like I said, I didn't get really chance to ask Paul Cook that, so maybe that's we can ask him before the game against MK Dons if he's willing to
yeah,
share that information depending on what it is. I mean, certainly a great option to have because if you think about James Berry on Saturday against Walsall, he might have created something out of nothing, or he might have taken a half chance or done a
yeah,
moment of brilliance which got Chesterfield a point because in the first half of last season he dragged Chesterfield into games and got them clearing games as well, didn't he?
yeah. He certainly did, and he's a real sort of explosive talent, whether he starts or comes off the bench or not. It's the kind of thing that Chesterfield want from the bench, don't they? They want somebody to be a threat to the opposition when you make a change going forward. So Chesterfield coming up against the side MK Dons, who have put plenty of cash behind the starting 11. They're without their left back, I think, who got sent off on Saturday. He said, Paul Warren said, he's got 23 midfielders, and the one place he didn't want to get a suspension to was a left back. So who's going to play there? We're not too sure. Callum Patterson, big signing for them, wasn't it? For drop from the Championship down to League Two, same as Nathaniel Mendes Lang. Although he missed out, I think he was injured. So this is going to be. They've lost their last two as well as Chesterfield. So this is going to be a real test for the Spireites. But at least they've got home advantage.
It is, yeah. If I think about Paul Warren's Rotherham team, they were a team who were physical, well organised, full of energy, and they would go long. They would put crosses in the box. They were all action. So if they're still playing that, if he's still sticking by that sort of style of play, then I would say that they're going to be a team who Chesterfield don't necessarily do well against, as in a Walsall, a Gillingham, these sorts of teams, a Bromley. I don't know. Maybe they're going to come and play a little bit more football. I'm not sure. I've not seen anything of MK Dons this season. I know they have got some good footballers like Dan Crowley, who was at Notts County, wasn't he?
Mm.
So yeah, whether they're going to come and play a different style, I'm not so sure. But if they play like a Gillingham or a Walsall, then it could be a long afternoon. And obviously they've got MK Dons have got a bit more quality, at the top end of the pitch as well, with Patterson and Mendes Lang and players like that. But Lawrence Maguire as well, obviously, but I don't think he's been playing for them. I don't know if he's injured or not because he could obviously be a contender for left back
Yeah.
if he's fit. Yeah, they might be a team who unlike Walsall, just haven't quite gelled just yet with all their new players and new manager. So yeah, on paper, well, I mean, MK Dons were the favourites for the title, weren't they? And Chesterfield was second favourites, so it's a good opportunity to have a look at each other. A really tough game, probably. You could see it both ways, couldn't you? Is this a game that you really want after a defeat to Walsall and that heavy defeat to Crewe, even though I know it was a cup game, or is this exactly the type of game that you want? Something to really get your teeth into. What do you think?
Yeah, I'm wondering because you're right. It tips the balance, doesn't it? Because if Chesterfield win, fabulous. What a statement that would be, wouldn't it? Especially keeping up their good home form that they have. They rely a lot on the fans getting behind their side, and if again, it's one of those things where they came back in the second half against Crawley on an emotional day, a couple of 10 days ago. That home form certainly gets them back into the game. But if they lose the game or don't win it, I think there's four without a win since they beat Harrogate, and all of a sudden you think, well, right, where's the? They're going to get dips, I suppose, as well. But you think, well, you don't really want a situation like this where you're starting to pick up injuries. The wins aren't coming as frequent as they certainly were at the start of the campaign. The fans get a bit angsty, and all of a sudden it can go and drop off a cliff, can't it? So. I'm not suggesting that's what's going to happen, by the way, because generally when Chesterfield have a big game, and Saturday is a big game. They turn up, don't they? So
Mm.
especially at home for that. So last Saturday, I wouldn't have regarded it as a big game. Walsall clearly did, but you know, you just want the next one to be the victory, don't you? So and Chesterfield, by and large, they lost to MK Dons last season, didn't they? 2-1, I think.
I
Um,
think it was a bad night, that one, wasn't it?
yeah,
Wasn't it 3-0?
I don't know.
There was a sending off, wasn't there? I think Aldi could get sent off early on.
I could have done. I'm gonna have to double check.
Yeah, I feel like it was a bad one,
It
that one.
wasn't a great one, was it? I think they definitely lost anyway, didn't they? So
I
was it
think
around Christmas?
Mandeville missed a good chance at a key point in the game, and then they ended up losing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, it was New Year's Day, and they lost 2-1.
Oh, at home, you mean? Yeah,
Yes, at
sorry.
home. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah,
Yeah.
sorry. Yeah,
Oh no, you missed the away one at
I missed. Yeah, so I
there.
wasn't
Yeah.
there. But
No,
I
because it was
yeah,
absolutely freezing, and you were there on your honeymoon, weren't you?
I was. Yeah.
So yeah, it was absolutely boiling where you were, and it was. I'm not kidding. It was the coldest night I've ever had. A soulless ground that nobody was in. It was freezing. And yeah, it was a very bad night. Old Acre got sent off. Chester were three down with
Yeah.
about 5 minutes, and yeah,
Yeah.
inexplicably put Liam Jessup at right back, and he got exposed. Bless him,
Mm,
he's got his fifth Gibraltar cap. He becomes
yeah.
Chesterfield's most capped player now. So credit to Liam Jessup there. So with five caps, so well done to him. And yeah, so I think we owe MK Dons one.
Yeah, the games last season they were quite close together, weren't they? They were
Yeah.
both in November, December time. Well, November, that's 5 or 6 weeks apart, weren't they? So
Yeah,
yeah, no, it should be a good game. I'll be interested to see, like, say how MK Dons line up, whether they go for the Paul Warren Rotherham style, or whether they are going to come and maybe play a little bit more football. But yeah, I mean, just for what 7 games in, this 2 points off the top of the league. It's very congested. It's a when you think about what a League Two table looks like, it looks exactly like you would expect. What I
tight.
would say
Yeah,
is, if you think about styles of play, and you look at the top three, Gillingham, Swindon, and Walsall, they all play a very similar way, which is very different
yeah,
to Chesterfield. And then you go and then you look into the playoffs as well. Obviously, Chesterfield are in there. You could probably say Crewe play some football, but there's also Bromley who are in there. I think there's someone else and Grimsby, who are probably a bit of a mix.
a mix. Yeah,
I do like watching Grimsby, actually. They were one of the better teams, I thought, to come up against Chesterfield last season, and then obviously they played that way, didn't they, against Man United?
mm.
I think that they're entertaining to watch. They've got a bit of everything about them. So yeah, but I think in terms of styles, yeah, there's not many teams who play like Chesterfield. But then you got to think who won the league last year, Doncaster Rovers, and they do play a similar style to Chesterfield. So yeah, it's a debate, isn't it?
It is. It certainly does, isn't it? In the season, Danny Webber reminded me it's 7 games in. Let's not just throw the panic button. Just open the trapdoor to the panic button before you jump off the cliff or anything like that. It's 7 games in, and Chesterfield have won 4 of them, haven't they? So I think in the league. So yeah, right then. It will be an interesting week going forward, won't it? It's going to be a big game, and I hope the crowd matches that as well. And Chesterfield bombard MK Dons with what they've got. Any final thoughts, Liam?
Any final thoughts? I just don't want to go to Walsall again.
Okay. And you want to interview Paul Cook in a better mood than he was on Saturday.
Well, hopefully we're just not interviewing on Saturday, because that means Chesterfield have won, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's
That means it'll be
true.
Danny Webb. Yeah.
I never get my exclusive with Danny Webb then, do I? So yeah, unfortunately. Sadly, but yes, MK Dons on Saturday. Thanks very much, Liam. As always, and if you like this podcast, then please like and subscribe, and you can catch up all on the latest Chesterfield news on the Derbyshire Times webpage, and also BBC Sounds as well has all the interviews on that for you as well. So bye bye for now, and we'll be back next week having discussed, hopefully, again, a victory over MK Dons. Thanks very much.